All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in here at our North Central Florida AITP chapter meeting. Those of you that are joining us via our YouTube channel, we appreciate you tuning in. And we would encourage you to hop on over to AITP-NCFL.org/home if you would like to be, if you're interested in additional presentations. We're a nonprofit organization and we are dedicated to all things information technology related. The North Central Florida chapter here has been active for 50 years. We were established in 1971 and we host presentations and discussions really on all things related to IT. So if you have any suggestions, you can always visit our website and leave your suggestions and any topics that you might like to present, or if you want to be a presenter yourself, we would encourage you. We're always looking for people to speak on a variety of different topics. The sky's the limit there. And I'd like to introduce our speaker tonight, Terry Martinbach. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our presentation started. This is 5 great tips for great presentations. I want to thank you again, Terry, for taking the time to join us out here. And I am going to turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here with the opportunity to speak to you. But I have to tell you, I've got some good news, bad news. The good news is I'm not doing a PowerPoint presentation. Oh, gosh. And the bad news is I'm not doing a PowerPoint presentation. I'm tired of them, you're tired of them, and the reason we are tired of them, because most of them just really stink. And that's a total other workshop out there. I will be touching on some of the PowerPoint events during this presentation, but let's get down to the brass tacks here. Have you ever attended an event with a speaker who was so bad, you believe you could have presented his material better than him? Been there many times, even paid to attend these events. And then there's those free workshops. High pressure sales pitch. You know the ones I'm talking about, where they advertise on the radio and the TV, where if you come to their workshop, they're going to show you all the secrets on how you can flip houses in the Gainesville area and you don't need any money. Well, what's the difference between the guy who went up there and just really stunk up the stage versus the guy giving the free workshop? And the reason the people who are given the free workshop, because they're polished, they're salespeople. The other person did the biggest mistake that many of us do. He tried to wing it. I'm Terry Martinbach. I'm a Toastmaster and a member of the National Speakers Association. And this evening, I'm going to give you tips that you can use to give a great presentation. So are you ready to get started? Let's do this. But wait, I just can't go into this. There's another subject that we have to touch on before we get into the tips. And it's preparation to give your speech or your topic or your presentation, your sales pitch. Let's talk about the tools, first of all, that you need. Let's talk about your computer and where you have it positioned. When you're going to give a presentation on your computer, I'm going to ask you to lift it up to where the camera is either looking at your eye or above your eye. Because if I'm looking down at my computer, what I'm actually looking at when you're making the presentation are the hairs inside your nose. Not a good presentation, and a lot of people are going to black it out or do something else because they don't want to see what's going on up there. I don't use my computer camera. I use a Logitech C920. I use it on a tripod. And the reason I do that, because I can raise it above where I'm looking at. And you really want to look it up, because if you're looking down, oftentimes you get to see your 2 or 3 chins that you have down there. But when you raise your face up, you're looking up, it gives you a thinner appearance when you're on the camera. Now, some of the other things I'd like it to go into is the mic on your computer isn't always the clearest. The mic on the C920 is a good presentation. I've used it many times. It's been a good workhorse over the years. But what I did for my wife, because she makes presentations also, is I bought her this nice, nifty little, let me get out of the here, this little nifty compression microphone. Inexpensive, but the clarity on them are out of this world. And if you're going to make a good presentation, if you want to have a clear subject line and you want people to understand you, then you need a good microphone. Well, that's all great and good when you're talking on the internet. But what about when you do a live presentation? You're talking about mics then. Are you going to wait till you get to where you're going to use their microphones and their equipment? That's destined to be a failure. What you're often going to find is one of these. And typically you're on a cord where you're limited movement. The difficulty with one of these mics is typically you have to keep it right here in front of your face. When you do that, you lose a lot of the attention of your customers. The other thing you do is you're out there walking around and you've got the mic over here someplace and the people in the back can't hear you because your mic is down here or you got it down here. The way you use a mic like this, it's kiss me close. And I don't know about you, but the spit catcher on this has probably been talked over by another 50 speakers prior to me. The other alternative is a cordless mic that's just like this. Now, you can wander around the stage, you can walk around in your presentation area, but you still have to keep the mic right here. And when you get into your speaking mode and all of a sudden the mic's going this way and that way, all you're doing is making your attendees seasick. So there's other alternatives that I want to show you that I use that I find very effective when I'm making my presentations. This is a microphone that I use during competitions. It's very small, slips around your head and your ears. You can adjust the boom mic. So it's what I call it's kiss me close. And when I'm doing competitions, typically or long presentations, I take Scotch tape and I tape it to my face. Because as I'm out there moving, I'm being very animated with my hands. I don't want this thing to come loose and come up my nose or come down my shirt or get stuck in my mouth. So if you keep it steady and ready, you won't embarrass yourself or make your audience a little ill. My favorite microphone that I use is a lavalier, a lapel lavalier. You attach it to your collar right here. If you can see it, there you go. And then you attach it to the receiver, sender receiver right here. Now, the good thing about this is you're going to be able to move hands-free around the stage. And you don't have to worry about it. I typically run the wire down through my shirt. I take this and stick it on my belt buckle. I put it inside my jacket. There's two things bad about this thing, is it eats batteries. If I'm going to be doing a 4-hour presentation workshop, at the first break, I have to change the batteries out of here. I made the mistake of not doing that one time. And then halfway through my next presentation, the batteries died. How embarrassing it is that I have to take the time away from my audience because I wasn't smart enough to change the battery. So change the battery in this. The second bad thing about this is you have to remember to shut it off during your break. I was at a presentation where a speaker didn't turn it off and went to the bathroom. And the conversation was going on. You hear the urinals flushing, the toilets flushing, but he was talking about a lady in the front row. Needless to say, when he got back on stage, she wasn't there. So you have to be careful. Remember, make sure you change your batteries. Make sure you've got this nice and tight on here. Hands-free, a great tool you can use. I encourage you to use it, even if you're doing presentations on the internet. Some of the other tools that you need to be thinking about, especially if you're going to be using your computer is the clicker. Keep it simple. The only thing that you really want this clicker to do is to change when you're changing pages on your PowerPoint presentation, and also blackening the screen. You don't need one of those that looks like you're operating every utility in your house. Something simple like this, a laser pointer that you'll never use, only if you want to destroy somebody's cats in your house. But the reason you would use this, because the opportunity for you to change your PowerPoint. How embarrassing is it when you go to a presentation and the person who's giving the presentation has to tell somebody else, next slide, black out the screen. It makes it difficult and you lose your audience's attention. We all know what thumb drives are. If you're going to be making a presentation, if you're going to need printed material, make sure that you have 2 thumb drives. Have you ever had a thumb drive fail on you? Load it all up, go to plug it in, and it's not there. What do? If you didn't have another one, maybe you're going to have to scramble to get somebody at your office, get your wife, your spouse, a significant other to email it to you somewhere, who knows where. And hopefully you have enough internet to download it and get your presentation. Second thing you might want to think about, if you're traveling and you're doing presentations and you're taking your computer, I encourage you to have a backup computer. Sounds a little ridiculous to spend another $1,000, but think about this. You know how the airlines run. If you're going into Charlotte, you land in E and your next flight leaves out of A, and you've got 10 minutes to get there. So what do? You're screaming through the airport. You got everything hooked on your luggage, and then all of a sudden you're going down the escalator and the strap comes loose on your computer. It rolls down the stairway and the big heavy guy down at the bottom steps on it. And when you get to go to your presentation, you realize your cute computer isn't going to work. Yep, $1,000. But if you make a presentation and you're selling your services, you're selling yourself, you have a product, what would that $1,000 investment mean to you for the future? A lot of places you're going to be presenting to don't always have the smart screen TVs. They may still have the overhead projectors. You may need one of these tools to connect into the projector so you can project your presentation over their screen. Just a few little tips that you can have. So when you're traveling and you're making that personal presentation, you have the tools to back you up. Also, take lots of batteries. Even this will fail you at the last minute. Let's talk about the setup. If you're going to be doing a Zoom presentation, a Facebook Live, a webinar live, do a dry run. Hook up with somebody else, record the Zoom, go through your presentation, and then review it. See what changes you can make. Look at your facial expressions, your hands expressions. Because what you're selling is information to your audience. You want to make it as professional and personal to them as you possibly can. If you're going to do a live event, let's say you're going to be presenting to 50, 250, 300 people out there. You need to arrive at your presentation hall, if not the day before, the morning before, and you walk the room and you have your mic already set up and you talk to your mic and you listen to what's going on in the back of the room, because you want to make sure that your audience gets the information that you're putting out there. You also want to make sure that when the chairs are put in there, if this is your personal presentation, you do not want an aisle in the middle of the room. Typically, when you're talking, you're looking straight ahead. If you have an aisle there, you're not looking at anybody and you're going to alienate your audience. So what do? If you have 250 people, you put several seats over here, you put seats in the middle, and you put seats on the side, and you have people come down through the sides. So when you're making your presentation, you can talk to this part of the room, you talk to this part of the room, you talk to this part of the room, and you keep repeating it. Make sure that you look at everybody in the eye. No center aisles. That is the poorest thing that I've seen set up when I do, or when I've gone into rooms and have them set up ahead of time. They do it every single time. When you go to do a live event, you either have somebody with you to record the event. Why would you do that? So you can take that back to your computer, review it, edit it, post it on your website, put it on social media to promote yourself. If you like to speak in public, if you're promoting your public speaking, give them little snippets of some of the highlights of the presentation. That will build you up for more speaking events, build your confidence, and also build your brand. So now let's get into those 5 tips that I promised you. First, organize your thoughts and have a strong opening. My strong opening was, have you ever attended an event? What about the guys who were polished? Once you get the hook out there, then you're going to have to make the transition into what you're going to be speaking about. Now, I cheated you. I told you the tools that you needed to have before I got into offering these tips. So I'm going to keep you on the line so you can get those tips. That is what, it's a little cheater out there, but it's all good. And then you go into your topic. After everything's said and done, to offer the benefit, and the benefit is I'm offering you tips that you're going to be able to use to make a professional presentation. That's why you're here. After you organize your thoughts, you think about what you're going to present, and you live it, you feel it. Have a little passion when you speak. How often have you been to a presentation where the speaker was so poorly his profession, he was boring, he was monotone. It sounded like he didn't care that he was there. He was just doing his job. If you love your job, if you love what you're doing, if you're excited about what you're doing, the passion will come out. And here's an acronym I want you to write down. It's WIIFM. WIIFM. And that's what's in it for me. When I'm up there speaking, it's not about me. I like me a lot, but if I have something to offer you, I want to make you a better person. Then I'm going to give you 100% to make sure that when you walk out of this office or you go off this presentation, that you have something valuable to take with you. I was part of a professional networking group a number of years back. And what I found out is people in this networking group were taking their presentation and they were writing it out on a notepad, a tablet, or their phone. And when they were asked to read their 30-second presentation, they just stood up and read it. They weren't prepared. Would you want to do business with somebody who didn't have the passion to speak from the heart about what their business is? Do you have a 30-second elevator speech? If you were going to go to a professional networking group or a Chamber of Commerce mixer and you were asked to stand up and give us 30 seconds about what your business does, could you do it? Here's mine. At Exit Realty Producers, we believe our agents is our most valuable asset, and we invest in them in 5 different ways: with training, branding, technology, culture, and a financial system where they can make more than 100% and create financial success. If you would like to hear more about how you can become financially successful, why don't you just reach out to me? I'm Terry Martinback with Martinback Group and Exit Realty Producers. It's 30 seconds. And how do I do that? I practiced it over and over and over. I don't wing it. To make a presentation to you today, how much time do you think I took to make sure that this presentation was perfect. Did a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. Tip number 3, actually tip number 2, don't hide behind a lectern. Don't hide behind an emoji. The worst thing you can do is grab the side of the lectern and stand there and not move. You get out, you engage your audience, you ask them questions. You never do this, you do this, ask them questions, put your hands out there to them, get some feedback from them, interact with them. There's also something else you can do when you're using the stage, whether your stage is at your desk or you're on stage, is knowing positive and negative. Positive and negative. This product is inferior to our product. You can also do the same thing, going back. This is the past, this is now, and this is future. We started out with a simple product. Our product today is superior to the product of last year. And the product that we're going to have, that we have coming out right now, is going to be superior to our product right here. Past, present, future. Negative, positive. If you want to make impact when you're speaking on stage, you move forward to the audience. When you want to sit back and let them think about it, you just move back and put your hands on your chest. Let them think about what you've just said. Use the stage, time, place. And you have to think about doing this from an audience's perspective. I'm standing on stage, and if I ask you to raise your right hand, I'm going to raise my right hand. It's a mirror image. Now, you may confuse some people up there because they know you just raised your left hand. But if I use my right hand and they raise their right hand, we're just doing the opposite. So think about the perspective as the audience is looking at you as you're looking into a mirror. The best way you can do that is practice in front of a mirror. I want you to create notes when you're going to give your presentation. Bullet comments. Never, never, never read your presentation. People will figure it out real quick. You can possibly read some of it if you've rehearsed it 100 times, just to make sure that you're not missing something in there. But let me tell you, when you give a presentation, the audience doesn't know that you made a mistake. When you're speaking to an audience, whether it's an audience of 2 or 200, how many people are you speaking to? You're speaking to one. Have you noticed during this presentation, I've been talking about you. The entire time I talk about you. Some of the worst things that I have, and I've seen professional speakers do it, they walk up to the stage and they go, "What a good-looking crowd." I look to my right. She ain't bad. He's ugly. He's not talking to me. "Welcome, Gainesville." Well, that's great. I live in Newberry, so obviously you're not talking to me. How are you all doing? You're talking to everybody else, but you're not talking to me. You don't care about me. How are you doing? Are you here to learn? Let's focus on that. And it all comes back to WIIFM. What's in it for me? Think about it from their perspective, not yours. And the 5th one I'm going to give you is rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. If you're going to give a presentation, video yourself, that shows my age, video yourself on your computer. Do your entire presentation and then play it back to you. Look at your facial expressions, your hand movements. If you're walking around in your area, practice like you're going to be walking on the stage. Remember, past, present, future, negative, positive, asking your questions, taking consideration of your audience. I'm going to remind you, you don't have to be perfect. The only thing that will get you if you're selling a $500 item and you make a mistake and say it's $5, they're going to be very upset with you in the very end. So let's go over the topics again. Organize your thoughts. Do not hide behind a lectern. Create notes and bullet points. When you're speaking to a crowd, you're speaking to one person. And rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. So what are your questions?
Thank you very much, Terry, for taking the time. I've had to go through some of the training that you are speaking on, as well as some of the pain points. I could have used you about 5 or 6 years ago, and then consulted you continuously after that. I'd like to hear a little bit more, if you could, specifically on audience placement analysis, is the way I'm going to say that I took it. The center aisle concept. That is something I have never heard of, and it sounds brilliant. So can you just reiterate on that a little bit more, if you don't mind, as
Sure.
far as the no center aisle conversation?
No center aisle.
I have actually seen that, and the other one that I would say, now that you brought it to mind, I wouldn't have been aware of it, is a presenter walking through an entire dining area where it was very impersonal.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up that point. Is when I'm going to be speaking, I've spoke throughout Gainesville and around the area. What I like to do as a speaker, let's say I'm going to be the after dinner speaker, I like to walk around. Not only I won't have my microphone on, but I will walk around and introduce myself as the speaker and get to know the audience. If it's a dinner speech, you become personal with them. And they feel like they know you. As soon as you step on that stage, you'll see them over. Hey, he come around the table and he talked to us. He shook our hands, and nobody's special. Sure, I've got books out there and I've been speaking for a while. I've been paid to speak, but it's that personal touch. And getting back to the aisle, you have to divide the aisle. You're in a room. Think about this. If you look in a large room, you've usually got double doors in the back. And when somebody walks in, they want to walk in and go left or right. Well, if you stop that left or right movement, they come in. Now they have to choose. Okay, do I want the left side of the stage? Do I want center stage? Do I want the right side of the stage? Typically, when they move in, they will go to the center and they won't come all the way to the front. They will fill into the middle. And the people who are skeptical of what you're going to be talking about will want to sit in the back, because if they don't like what you're talking about, they're out of there. And speaking of that, you may have people who have no interest in what you're talking about. They're going to get up and walk out. Continue speaking. Your subject didn't, but there's other people sitting there. So I don't care if this person's walking out. This person's sitting here. He's taking notes. He's listening to me. I'm talking to them. They're more important than the people who are walking out. So don't get concerned. Not everybody's going to like your topic, what you're talking about.
And Rolando, if you by any means have a question, don't let me hog. This presentation is really geared for a lot of the stuff that I have to do on a daily basis. So it really hits home. I call it WIFM. You said WIIFM. It's actually part of the learning development process for some of the online courses that we do. It is one of the bullet points, without PowerPoint, that we use to architect the overview video for what the course is going to be, and or what will the viewer actualize by viewing this course. And that's the whole, what is in it for me? What am I taking away from this? So I really like that fact that you mentioned that, because I knew exactly what that acronym meant. And it helps us to keep in mind that we have to distill down the concepts. Now, on the concept of distillation, if you will, in another sense, I guess I should say. I know that Toastmasters is great about doing this. You said be able to give your 30-second elevator pitch. This is something that I have often wanted to do, and I work with a great company, IT Pro TV and ACI Learning, and I've had to give that very explanation. But what I don't know how to do, maybe you could help me on this, is how do you distill something like that down? You said practice.
Practice, rehearsal.
Yeah. So how do you take that concept of what you did? How did you distill it down to the major points that you could give?
Well, with Exit Really, you have the foundations of what your company is. Our company is Exit Really. We have 5 pillars, and that comes down to is training, branding, technology, culture, and finance. Now you have to put the human element in there. Who is this going to affect? It's going to affect our agents. And who are agents? They're an asset to us. They're a valuable asset because they're the ones that keep the doors open. So we have to invest in them with training, branding, technology, culture, and a financial system. Take those elements. What you've got to figure out, what are the pillars to your business? What is it that you offer your agent, your customers, your viewers, that they're going to take that and live with and say, that's what I want.
Very good.
We broke it down. We started out with a minute. Have you ever stood face to face and not said a word to anybody? Just 2 people standing face to face and not say a word and feel how long that minute is?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got somebody in an elevator for a minute, within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, they want to be out of there. So I took a 1 minute what they call a 1 minute elevator speech and chopped it down into 30 seconds. It's my own words. We have a script that we go by, but that's not me. I had to put in the element that I'm in, and I thought about our agents and their family. So that's why I put that together.
Very good. That's great. Yeah, one of the things, one of the parts of my job that I do, not only being, training for technology certifications and stuff, is I also have to fulfill a host role and host in situations where I can't even spell the acronyms. Let me give you a case in point. I help host audit shows, cybersecurity audit, full out, internal auditor association type content, and I have no clue about it. So what the subject matter experts do is they give me 5 questions, and on the fly, what I do is I try to put those questions from my own perspective. So that's why I was asking you, that can be beneficial to me in a way that if I can distill down the point of the subject matter expert on the fly and start to get very good at it, I can use it dynamically within shows and content that we record.
Well, some of the other effects that I want to give, and I try to tell people, and Rolando's heard me say this before, do you have to put humor in when you're speaking? And the answer is no, you don't have to be funny. Only if you want to get paid. You have to throw a little bit of humor in there, but you also have to know your audience as well. And you have to know what might get them to laugh. Could you imagine going to present to a 350 structural engineers or electrical engineers who have no personality? What makes them laugh? Nothing. But if you can get them to smile, they'll catch something, and they will be thankful. They'll even come up. You won't hear a laugh, maybe not even see a smile, and they'll come up to you. That was funny. You did really good. I'm like, gee, thanks.
I have another question too, because again, all of these points were just so really good. So let me kind of grab my notes here. So one of the things you talked about was asking the audience to interact, audience interaction. For instance, hey, raise your hand, I'm going to do it with you. One of the things that I hadn't considered before is remember that you're talking to a single individual. That point I understand, but when you talked about welcoming somebody based on, let's say, a certain demographic, if you will, let's say a city, then that message really is only going to apply to those people that are in that city. And how about alienating the rest of the audience? That is a very interesting observation, and one that I'd like to keep in mind too when I go and do partner summits, and stuff like that, or maybe even this presentation here. How do you gauge, or let me make sure I'm putting this the right way. How would you say is a good way to increase the audience dynamic and participation without using an inclusivity or an inclusive type language?
Well, I would leave it out.
Leave it out, okay.
Leave it out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me so I can be with you here this morning, this afternoon. I'm here to educate, give you some humor, and let you walk out of here with tools that you can use. That's all I want. And they're not going to walk away. They're not going to remember your entire presentation, but there's going to be one or two pieces, what we call one or two nuggets, they're going to be able to take in their pocket and go back to their office and put it to use. And if they can do that, they will remember you. But it's all about one person, you. And I'm not supposed to do this, it's you. Thank you. This is putting your hands out here. Thank you. It's thanking them.
Sure.
It's also questioning. You ask, throw a question out there. Facial expressions, I have no idea. I'm a dummy. Help me out here. Walk around on stage, and I pick on people when I'm speaking. Rolando's seen me present before, and I am vicious, but I make people laugh, and that's the fun part of presenting.
Yeah, you all also, and like I said, I probably could have just done a transcript and pointed out all the good spots that you mentioned here. Yeah, one of the things that we at our company that's really I don't know if you want to say that it's the learning development method, but it's something that's very strict, and it's one of the things, just being a technical instructor and growing as an instructor around other instructors. You mentioned that you've seen when people are doing other presentations and where sometimes those presentations fall short. And one of the things I think you kind of mentioned is that we're not teaching from slides. And that becomes, I think, burdensome on the audience. And the other thing too is that kind of follow this unspoken rule of what I call 4-4-24. I don't know if you've heard of it. 4 bullet points, no more than 4 words, 24 font or point font, so everybody can see it. So very, very limited text. I think the final thing that I really like that you ended on is that you don't have to be perfect, and certainly don't bring the big neon sign that points right to anything that you didn't do right, because unless people have seen it time and time again, chances are this is the first time they're seeing it.
Exactly. They don't know if you made a mistake. Now, on the presentations, what I get from the PowerPoint presentation is 10 slides, no more than 20 minutes with the 30 font. I also put out there that no more than 8 words. I prefer pictures, something relevant. Because people they don't want to read, but they'll see a picture that is, if it's the topic you're talking about, and you leave it on the screen for about 4 or 5 seconds and you go black. Now that is now impregnated in their head. When you give a PowerPoint presentation, people should come up and say, can I have a copy of your presentation? And you should say, absolutely. Because when they take it back home, it's going to mean nothing to them, because you as the presenter have all the information, but something may ring from a picture that they will draw back to you from the presentation. So, but no, PowerPoint, there's so many opportunities to use PowerPoint, but it's such an abused tool out there. Yeah,
in the technical instructor realm, and I'm sure you've heard this many of times throughout your career, death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Typically what it seems like it can be, for sure.
Yeah, too many small words. I mean, I'm talking about somebody taking almost a page of a book and posting up there. Then they turn around and read it to me. You just made me feel like an idiot. You don't think I know how to read? Just because I was raised in Indiana doesn't mean I don't know how to read.
Yeah, and even if you don't read from those PowerPoints, when you put too much text in it, at some point, the presenter becomes obsolete because all your text is on the screen and they start reading that anyways.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Or I like the influx of you're talking about something, throw a 5-second video on there and then go black, and people are going to go, "What was that?" Just insert something just insignificant that, you'll be talking about something. It could be somebody walking their dog and the dog pees on a pole, and you go black on there, and people are going to, they'll remember the dog peeing on the pole, but what were you talking about before the dog peed on the pole? Yeah, it's just, but it's just to break up the monotony of instruction.
Most definitely. All right. Well, Rolando and Terry, again, we can't thank you enough for being here and taking the time to speak with us. And we encourage all of our viewers that are watching this via our YouTube channel to make sure that you do visit the AITP North Florida, I should say, North Central Florida AITP website at AITP-NCFL.org/home, so that you can be aware of all the events, and that definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us under North Central Florida AITP as well. Remember that if you have any comments, if you have any suggestions for topics, or if you yourself would like to be a presenter at our next chapter meeting, you can always send us an email, or you can visit our website to gain that information. So on behalf of all of us here at the North Central Florida AITP, thank you for watching.
Thank you.